Well, when faced with your greatest challenge, is it enough to say mind over matter? It's not uncommon to see athletes train their hearts out only to choke as soon as the starting pistol is fired.
Yeah. More significant than triumphs is the way our athletes overcome the odds to fulfill their dreams. And this is where sports psychology really plays an important role in grooming the next generation of champions.
And here to discuss the importance of training the mind and the body outside of the sporting arena is sports psychologist Edgar Tham and ex-national water polo player Lim Yao Xiang. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Edgar, let's start with you. How do you achieve the best sports performance mentally and physically? More mentally, actually, I'm keen to find out.
Actually, you need to prepare yourself. So a lot of athletes actually train their minds to prepare themselves before competition. Because you think about it, you spend 95% of your time in your sport training and practicing. So what are you doing mentally? And when it comes to the actual competition itself, can you pull it all together? So that's the key, to practice and really get yourself ready before the actual meet itself. Yeah.
And now, before we get to Yao Xiang, can you give an example of how you train yourself mentally for sport?
Well, athletes use visualization as a way to think about what they want to do. Of course, they also apply that in their training themselves. So at the end of the day, it's all about integrating it. And the other one is also that they have to prepare themselves before the actual event itself, so that at the end of the day, they're more prepared.
Okay, Yao Xiang, let's bring you into the discussion. Tell us about how you mentally train your mind, because you're an athlete. You've got the sports psychologist here. You listen to what he or she says. How do you get out there, and how does it actually impact on your performance?
I think it's definitely something that you have to do it constantly every day. It's not something that you learn and you just apply it on the sport. It has to be done at a daily basis, because you're training your mind to be so sharp in everything that you do. So you're running through your drills, every step that you're taking, so that you have perfect race or game, whatever you are going for. And it takes a lot of practice. I think the misconception is that they feel that you're working on physical, you need time to train that, and the mind just kicks in. But actually, to train the mind is actually even tougher at times, because it's something that you neglect most of the time. Yeah.
Now, you've seen success in the world of athletics, but you've also had some setbacks with the SEA Games qualifications.
Yeah.
So how do you come back after something so disappointing? Because obviously you train really hard, you want a particular outcome, and it doesn't happen.
I think it comes with experience, not just as a person, but also as an athlete. Because once you train long enough, you realize that failure is actually a part of the journey. And when you do meet failures, you do not take that in a negative perspective. It actually makes you better. So I think that example that you used was when I was an adult. So I was a little bit more experienced and mature at the time. So you could take a better perspective and how you use it into something more positive. Yeah.
It's all about attitude.
Yeah, Edgar, does it get more intense as you get closer and closer to that competition date, or is it the same all the way through?
The challenge for us is that as you get closer, there's expectations, there's media.
Media.
Expectations, So athletes get very pressured when they get closer to the competition. I don't think they feel it so much in the early part of the year or season, but it's when they get closer, and that's where all the media attention and all that, and sometimes they just have to learn to block it, right? So that's something that they have to learn to do.
So Yao Xiang, as a coach, what would you tell the people that you're coaching? How would you encourage them to prepare themselves and to brace themselves for what's to come?
I think the most important thing that I tell them, it's actually the day-to-day routines that you're putting yourself through. Because whatever you're doing during training is the exact same thing that you want to perform during competition. So that's something that you have to drill them once you start. And I think during the competition itself, like what Edgar say, it's about learning to just trust the process, the training that you have put yourself through, and just let whatever is going to happen, just happen, and don't overthink things. Yeah.
Is it more difficult to train an individual or a group, like a team? What's more difficult? Would you say it's easier for just someone running the 100 meters, or it's easier when it comes to getting that physical and mental toughness for a football team?
Well, besides the sport, there's also the personality part. So because your client or your coachee also has got their own personality and personal issues maybe sometimes. So again, it depends. There's no one right answer, if I may say. Yeah, it really depends on their situation, depends on their background, depends on their experience level. So all these things come into play. So it's a very complex situation here for us.
Should you have that arrogance as well as an athlete? Like you see someone like Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
You've got to have that, I think.
Yeah,
right?
do you think it's important? But then you have someone like Wade Van Niekerk, who's just the total opposite. He's very humble, he's very quiet. How do you actually compare the two?
Studies, first of all, show that Olympic athletes, right, number one skill is actually confidence. The US Olympic Committee actually did a study in 1998 after the Atlanta Games in 96. They found that the number one mental skill that Olympic athletes felt were important to their success was actually confidence. But what you're saying is also external confidence. They may not show it externally, but maybe internally is probably more important from that mind-body kind of situation for them. So yeah.
What about sports injuries, Yao Xiang? I think that's a different type of setback, right? Because
Definitely.
mentally, maybe not being prepared is different from, say, hurting a part of your body. So how does that play into the psyche of being an athlete?
I think, to be honest, because our bodies are actually the machine that carries out all the work. So, at least for us, we tend to learn, I think, with external help. You learn how to take care of your body a little bit better. You eat the right things, you do the right warm-up, the drills, to sort of not only just make yourself better, but also your body better as well. But actually, when that happens, it actually makes a very positive impact on your psychological take during the competition. You know, I think everything is all mashed up into one, and there's no one right factor.
Some people say that, you know, even when you're injured, if you continue to visualize, if you continue to get your mind to actually think you're going through the whole process, it actually helps you heal fast and also gets you back to a performance level.
Yes, we have learned that, and I have seen it and felt that personal experience before. I think sometimes athletes would think that, okay, if I'm injured, I will have to rest. And in fact, sometimes rest will actually make your comeback slower and longer. Sometimes continuous movement, even in a different way, like you just said, using the mind, just go through the drills that you're doing. Because when it happens again, and when you're fit and your injury is gone, it's not the first time you're doing it, at least in your head. Right?
And you've been nodding, you agree with...
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Because I used to work in a sports medicine center, and we saw athletes who were injured, and we were thinking to ourselves, how do we help them recover faster? So we taught them mental skills. In fact, the same skills they use in training and competition can also be used in injury rehab. So visualizing yourself getting better, thinking positively, you know, learning to relax yourself as part of the process. Yeah, powerful stuff.
Are you doing any work with some of the athletes obviously heading off to the
Yes,
SEA Games?
currently, but I can't mention names.
Okay, all right. So, but what are you always telling them constantly? Tell us that.
Focus on the process.
Focus
Not
on
the outcome.
Yeah, and let the outcome take care of itself.
Okay. One last question before we wrap things up. Yao Xiang, being an athlete, how has this mental toughness translated into other parts of your life?
I think it's benefited me as a person. So I think when you're an athlete, you are so accustomed to stress and actually the management of stress. And it's that skill that you have that you can use outside because you kind of run away like the fact that you will be juggling with work, your sports, your family, and other kinds of responsibility. And then, so basically once you have that, it helps you stay positive even when things are down. You know that even failures happen and you know how to take in a positive stride, and that will actually help you in the long term.
Yeah, nicely said.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in this morning. I know
Thank
it's
you.
very early. You're saying. We've been speaking to Edgar, Tham, and Lim Yao Xiang, discussing how we have to train the mind for competition.
This weekend on Japan.